or to their communities. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the processes and services that the Department of Corrections has instituted during that particular time period. I do want to introduce some of our community transition team. Our community transition team consists of 4 community transition specialists, 2 of which are here today. We have Miss Lee Warren, who is the community transition specialist for Region 1 of the Florida Department of Corrections. And she is over the Panhandle region. And we have Miss Natalie Dixon Williams, who is over Region 4 of the Florida Department of Corrections, and that is all of South Florida. Ms. Dixon Williams and myself are currently covering Region 3 of the department, which is Central Florida as well. There are also 53 career development specialists within select Florida Department of Corrections institutions. And there is also a statewide community transition administrator, Ms. Janelle Robinson in central office, and a career development specialist coordinator, Mr. Russell Upchurch in our central office. As you can tell by the number of staff that the Department of Corrections has that are working in transition services, it is a large priority for our department. And I'm really excited to be able to speak to you a little bit about some of our initiatives that we have going on in that today. So I want to begin with a quote that says, "People who have paid their debt to society, who want to work and who are qualified for the job should not be resentenced to joblessness." So as we are going about this particular presentation, I just want you to think about this, what the quote means to you right now, and see if in any way your opinion of the quote, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, changes by the end of this presentation. So I'm a person that as I'm learning about new things, I like to kind of get facts. And some of the facts that I like are statistics, because I find that they bring out information in very telling ways. So the Florida Department of Corrections research has kind of found these 2 statistics, which I think are both rather startling. One is that 75% of individuals who successfully complete their community supervision, that's their probation, are employed. And the other one that is even more startling is that 82% of individuals who commit a serious crime where there's a loss of life are not employed. So when I look at these 2 statistics, the thing that stands out to me that they both have in common is employment. And that tells us that employment is very foundational to the overall reduction of crime and recidivism. During the height of the pandemic, we heard about spikes in crime, especially violent crime. And, that's idle people, a lack of resources, the literal inability of individuals to go to work because businesses were closed. And in the case of our returning citizens, many times the inability to go to work because of your background. And all of those situations combine to contribute to the spike in crime, especially violent crime. So here are some facts also that I think that we should all be interested in related to Florida's correctional system. So our correctional system is the 3rd largest system in the United States, behind only Texas and California. We house approximately 80,000 inmates at any given time, and we supervise another 120,000 offenders in Florida's communities. We release approximately 30,000 individuals from prison each year. So this should be of extreme interest to all of us, because these are individuals who are returning to our communities. And if we cannot get these returning citizens into our communities and employed and contributing in productive and constructive ways, they are going to return to committing crimes. They're going to find alternative means to have the things that they want and need. And many times those alternative means are going to be centered around really bad decision-making. So our focus in our community transition team is on reducing recidivism in the state of Florida. Again, I think definitions are important. So what do we mean when we're talking about recidivism? The state of Florida defines recidivism as a return to prison as the result of either a new conviction or a violation of post-prison supervision within 3 years of their prison release date. And as we have seen so far, the leading predictor of recidivism is employment. So a lot of times as individuals who maybe have never been involved with the justice system, it is very hard for us to figure out why our returning citizens cannot just, transition back into society, get a job and move forward. And unfortunately, though, that's not often possible. These individuals face many barriers that the rest of us probably will never have to learn how to navigate. But re-entering society after incarceration can be incredibly stressful. And like I said, there are many barriers that they face. They can face unemployment due to their charges, obviously, financial obligations, whether that's restitution, court costs and fees. They can also face housing restrictions due to their charges. They may have substance abuse or ongoing substance abuse or mental health issues that they are actively trying to seek treatment for, strained family relationships, if they're lucky enough to have maintained those family relationships. So many times there's not a large support system for them. They can have had some of their professional licenses restricted. So they may have had a way that they provided for themselves before they were incarcerated, and then they can no longer do that. And also transportation, because even if they can pay the court cost or, or fees to get their licenses unsuspended, they may not be able to afford a car. They may not be able to afford car insurance. And so a lack of resources and information about these barriers and how to navigate them can potentially lead to them committing more crimes and recidivating. So, as we in our communities and as employers and as organizations are working with these individuals, we should be mindful of the fact that they need our assistance and that they need our help trying to overcome these barriers. So one of my next questions always is this: why? If there are so many barriers in the way of the success of the returning citizen, why should we consider hiring them? And this is not a rhetorical question at all. So what I'd like to do, if we can, is to get some comments either in the chat box or, or just talk to me about why it is that you think, oh, I can't see anybody. Are you there?
We are.
Hey, Erin, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, it was just frozen all of a sudden. My apologies. So, in the chat box, just kind of put why you think it's important that that they're successful, that our returning citizens are successful in re-entering society. It doesn't even have to be the chat box. We can have a conversation about it.
This is Heiko Dovico. I'm over at the Riverside Hotel in Fort Lauderdale. Erin, thank you for the presentation. I think a barrier for us is, of course, we've never explored returning citizens or folks with records. And when you look at our employment screening process, we do ask, whether you had been convicted for any felony. And again, there's different level of felonies, and then sometimes also the felonies, when did they actually occur? Were you a knucklehead 20 years ago when you smoked dope and you got caught? And I'm just making stuff up right now, but
Certainly.
for the last whatever years you were great, and there's no problem with that. I think one of the things that would make it interesting for our industry, as we are aligning ourselves with the American Hotel Lodging Association and the National Restaurant Association, to provide maybe the folks that are currently incarcerated and that would like to potentially re-enter the workplace in the food and beverage industry, to provide them with a trade skill certification or some kind of an apprenticeship while they are in jail. And it reminded me of Chef Scaramucci down in the Florida Keys, when he actually did training classes. He had a catering company, great events in the Keys, and he actually taught culinary skills in the prison on Stock Island. And then when the returning citizens were set free and needed to re-enter society, right, he now had an applicant pool of folks to come and work for his venue or any of the restaurants on, I guess, on the island, you know. So one of the things is we have to have a mind shift. We as employers have a mind shift and really take a look whether the felonies were potentially violent felonies. And I tell you, out of my personal experience, you know, I probably would swallow twice in order to understand if somebody that had more violent felonies, whether I'm going to consider them, or whether somebody had some minor felonies, and then also maybe looking at how long ago they were, whether I would consider them, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to be as blunt as possible. Yeah.
It does. And I love to hear the anecdotes about, you know, the chef and being able to train individuals while they are in jail, in prison. Currently, the Department of Corrections, we have an amazing, several amazing culinary arts programs within our institutions. We try to get everybody, I think they're serve safe and you know, different things like that. We are completely open and would love to have conversations with individuals and with organizations that would want to come into the institutions, that would want to offer apprenticeships within the institutions. You know, we are, like I said, reentry services and providing that type of training and these types of services to our population is like tantamount, is like paramount to, you know, the success of this organization. Because at the end of the day, we wish we could put, I mean, we don't wish we could put ourselves out of business, but I mean, we do wish we could put ourselves out of business, because it would mean that we were, you know, helping to transform the lives of our returning citizens as they were entering society. And I would love to be able to speak about some of the ways that we can help you, you know, because I do understand there are different levels of felonies, 100%. And we actually utilize a releasing report when we work with our partner employers, where we're able to discuss the background, where you're able to know who it is that that you would be interviewing with. These are not cattle calls that we are trying to do, where we just want to throw every, you know, person that we have at you. We really want to do job placements where we look at what your needs are, what sort of skills and abilities you say that your employees need to have, and then and what backgrounds you will and will not work with, and then match you with employees. So
well, if you think about the food and beverage industry, pre-pandemic, we had a labor deficit of 35%, meaning even if everybody that was unemployed was back in a job, we still would have a labor shortage of 35%. Currently, that labor shortage in our industry, in the food service industry, is over 40%, right? So you definitely have plenty of open positions. You know, needless to say, we want to make sure that the returning citizens are going to be passionate about the food and beverage industry, you know, and or the hospitality industry in itself. So you have a great opportunity to provide a labor force, but we as an industry have to be open enough to embrace the returning citizens as a labor force as well.
100%. It is absolutely a culture shift. It is a mind shift, and I really appreciate your comments about that. So I'm going to continue here. But at a more real level, you know, because I think that we can get bogged down in in specifics about why, and in trying to be good civically minded individuals and employers, but at a real fundamental financial personal level, the success of these individuals is important because they are returning to our communities. And when they do, it can affect our tax base. So if it takes 10 patrol cars to keep your 5-block radius neighborhood safe, the cost of that coverage is going to show up in your local tax base, not only in the cost of the patrol cars, but even in the human resources to man the patrol cars. Like I said, they're coming back to our communities, and it's important that when they come, they're making better decisions. And that only happens if they have resources and financial stability. So right now, I'm going to let Miss Natalie Dixon Williams, our Region 4 representative, introduce someone to us. She is with the Jasmine Hospitality Group, and she has had some experience with the Department of Corrections in hiring our returning citizens. And we thought that it would be great to let you guys hear her take on the entire situation. So Natalie, if you are ready.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound rough, but we hear you.
Thank you, Erin. You're doing an outstanding job. And I apologize for my voice. I am getting over something right now, but I do want to introduce Sarah, Miss Sarah Granito from Jasmine Hospitality. She has been doing an awesome job with working with the Florida Department of Corrections. She is the corporate operations revenue manager for Jasmine Hospitality. All I can say is that the partnership with Sarah has been awesome. She's been working with us here in Region 4. She's providing us those resources in reference to letting us know that there's a job available at whichever hotel it is. And even in our Central Florida area, she has been assisting us with that as well. And I just thought that this is the time for us to actually, from experience, let her be able to let you know that we are actually doing this. And it speaks volumes knowing that we have this partnership with Jasmine Hospitality. And I couldn't ask for more from that relationship with Ms. Granito. Ms. Granito, can you hear me?
I can. Good morning, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Granito. Go ahead and let everybody know about our work that we've been working with you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So this started, I would say, I've been in this corporate position about 6 years. My main job is to oversee a $35 million hotel portfolio with a variety of brands from Marriott to Choice to Independence. And about 5 years ago up here, and I am up here in Windermere, Florida, Orange County, Florida, we started with a work release center with female offenders that have become released citizens, some that were still on sanctions, in housekeeping positions, food and beverage, and it worked out really well. We also had contracts with contract labor, so citizens that were here from other countries that were working. And one day I approached my ownership and I said, why don't we consider looking at returning citizens and fellow Americans for jobs? And let's see how that works out. Our partnership with the Work Release Center here in Orange County has been fantastic. And once the ladies finished their sanction, they either moved on or actually they even grew with our Orlando hotels. So they were open to the idea, and I reached out to the DOC, which now I'm in 8 different counties in Florida, and the employment specialists or the probation officers or work release centers work directly with our GMs that all report to me. And yeah, I mean, it's been phenomenal. We've had right now, I believe, we have, about 40 released citizens working for our entire portfolio. maybe 10 that have been promoted to supervisory positions, including front desk, audit, food and beverage, housekeeping, and even engineering. Some of the backgrounds are what people would consider harsh felonies, and people have changed their lives. And all in all, I mean, it's just been tremendously rewarding. They've been the most loyal, most dedicated associates that we've had. I've also had to fire associates that have had no background, or maybe when they were hired, they didn't have a background. And this is why I personally think background checks are ridiculous, because you could be hired and not have anything, and then a week later go and be convicted of grand theft, which it's happened. So I mean, unless you're going to do backgrounds every year, I'm involved with that too, then what good does it really do? So but when somebody discloses that, we have found that they've worked harder, they're loyal, they're dedicated, and they stay with us, and they've gotten promoted. They participate in employee rallies, employee of the month. I've had, again, I don't have my exact number, but 4 or 5 associates that have been recognized on meta search engines, and that being meta search engines are TripAdvisor, Kayak, where you go and you search for hotels just by their name, rewarded for customer and guest services. That has helped, I believe, in their possible release from probation or any sanction, and they're still with us. So they have also been involved in holiday parties. I think I mentioned employee of the month rallies. So it just brings everybody back. Not saying that some don't cause, anywhere you go, there's drama. So with no relation to their sanction or their status as a released citizen. But overall, it's just been a tremendous success, and it's just been growing. I've talked to 2 or 3 other hotel portfolios to see if they'd be interested in that. And there are 1 and 2 that are, I believe, in Martin and Indian River, I believe they're working now. So all in all, I mean, it's been great, and I hope that this continues. This is more of a secondary job for me. Again, my main job is this, bringing in the money for the portfolio, but it's been great. And if those associates are working with our Marriott, they're trained and certified in Marriott in their specific department, or Wyndham, IHG, which is Holiday Inn, and Choice. So I just got to get a contact in Seminole County, because we're building a new Marriott, and Seminole hasn't been so friendly yet. So if anyone knows anybody in Seminole, hit me up, please.
Thank you so much, Ms. Granito. We are extremely, extremely grateful to you for your partnership, and looking forward to moving forward. And we can definitely speak about Seminole soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we appreciate your time this morning. I do know that you had another engagement that you needed to get to, so we just wanted to get you in and let everyone hear what you had to say before you had to leave. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And anytime there's a focus group, just let me know. We participate in job fairs as well.
Okay.
Sarah, can I just ask a quick question, Sarah?
Yeah, go
You had
ahead.
mentioned for your group you have 40 success stories. And I know our industry also works much with the recovery group, folks that are in recovery. And a lot of times our success ratio is not that good with folks that are in recovery, right? What have you seen with the returning citizens in regards to retention and keeping them? Do you have some kind of a ratio out of the 40? Was it 60 that you brought on and 40 are now permanent? Do you have a ratio of sorts?
No, I believe, is it Hiko? Am I pronouncing it correct?
It's like Heiko, like Psycho. Now you remember.
Heiko, there you go. Yeah, no, I would say it's close to 90%, honestly. We've had a few, and you brought up addiction, drugs, alcohol. Unfortunately, we did have one that he was promoted to a supervisory position, and he had issues with addiction, and he was, again, fantastic. I thought on the roll to possible management, and he was still under a house arrest, and he had his, I guess it's the ankle bracelet and whatnot, and he was doing fabulous on reviews, and he recently failed a drug test, and I spoke to him myself with the general manager there, and I just had said, I hope you do get that under control, the addiction part of it, because you'll always be welcome back. It had nothing to do with his felony or whatnot. It was just addiction. And then we had a handful of that, actually. There were about 4 or 5, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but with regard to failed drug tests and addiction. So that was the only downfall,
Well,
with the exception of one that violated probation by going out with his girlfriend on house arrest. So.
You know, we all know that particularly over the last several years during the pandemic, that, you know, addiction and, you know, substance use issues were well on the rise. And so, you know, I think that it's pretty easy to see how that, you know, how that would be even more so within our population. But I think as a whole, that, you know, that percentage, that 90% of those returning citizens that you've hired have been good hires and have stayed and are loyal. I think that more than speaks to their willingness, you know, to try to change. So, and I appreciate you being willing to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, it's very
so
rewarding.
a little bit.
I just wish I had
Yeah.
more hotels, but I'm not the ownership. So with the success it really has been fantastic.
Good. I think, you know, some of maybe the misconception out there is that a lot of people think that it would be really easy for us just to give our population some training and send them on their way to kind of fend for themselves. But due to the types of situations and barriers that we kind of talked about earlier, that's often not possible. And that's why engaging with organizations like FRLA and employers and educational providers and our community resources isn't just smart business for the Department of Corrections, it's necessary business for the Department of Corrections. We have to work as communities to reduce the stigma that's associated with hiring justice-involved individuals. We have to educate ourselves and our employers about our civic responsibilities, and we need to partner to provide successful reintegration back into Florida's communities. Now, that's not to say that we're saying, hey, just do this out of the kindness of your hearts. There are advantages to employers, financial advantages to employers and incentives to employers that do hire returning citizens. And we are actively working behind the scenes to identify employers that recognize the unique skills and abilities of our returning citizens and who want to help them succeed in obtaining and retaining employment. Some of the incentives for our industry are unlimited work opportunity tax credits that an employer can obtain yearly for hiring ex-felons. There's also a federal bonding program for up to 6 months on ex-felons. The department offers pre-release hiring events where employers can engage inmates pre-release for job interviews and job placements. Specific to our community transition specialists, we target employers and associations that can provide services beyond just employment placement, such as the training and apprenticeships that we talked about. There's also an emphasis on releasing prisoners to employment, which is an entirely different discussion from releasing somebody with a referral to a job. It's one thing to say, you know, this person might have a job, go see them and ask when you get out. It's another thing to place them in front of an employer who's willing to hire them before they ever leave the institutions. We also host semi-annual reentry seminars in our longer sentence correctional facilities. And then we host quarterly reentry seminars at our reentry centers and short sentence correctional facilities. And these seminars are for our community providers and employers to engage with our inmates pre-release. So delving just a little bit more into some of the employer incentives for hiring this population, we're going to look at the work opportunity tax credits. They're more commonly known as the WOTC. If you see on the screen, it addresses several classes of people that an employer can receive a tax credit for hiring. And ex-felons, as they're described in the statute, are among the classes that are covered under this particular tax credit. So through the work opportunity tax credit, an employer can earn between $1,200 and $9,600 per employee based on wages paid and hours worked. It's dependent upon whether the new employee is working a minimum of 120 hours in their first year after they're released from incarceration. And it is an unlimited tax credit. So if you hire 100 ex-felons, you are eligible for 100 tax credits. If you hire 10,000, if you hire 1,000,000, you're eligible for that amount in tax credit. And essentially what the tax credit is a reimbursement of the federal income tax that you would have paid in for that particular individual. The funding for the work opportunity tax credit is predicated upon state workforce agencies certifying that employers are eligible for the tax credit for hiring the returning citizens. So our state workforce agencies, they track employment and they report job retention, and they also track how many work opportunity tax credit certifications they issue each fiscal year. So you can see 2017, 2018, 2019, there were over 2 million work opportunity tax credits certifications that were issued. That did drop off in 2020 during the pandemic, which, is understandable. We also want to look at the federal bonding program, which is an incentive program that allows employers to hire at-risk job applicants with limited liability to their businesses. This bond is a federal Fidelity bond, $5,000 federal Fidelity bond that insures the employer for theft, forgery, larceny, or embezzlement by the bonded employee. Bonding essentially gives the employer a 6-month time period to observe and gain trust in the employee. The first 6 months are free to the employer. And if you want to renew it at the end of the 6 months, the bonds are available for renew at a discounted price. The program will cover any person who's a risk due to their being in one or more of the following groups: ex-offenders with a record of arrest, conviction, or imprisonment, anyone who's ever been on parole or probation, and or anyone who has a police record. So if you are interested in utilizing this program, learning some more information about this program, you can reach out to me or one of the other community transition specialists within your region. You can also reach out to your local career source as they hold classes on how exactly the program works and what you need to do to apply to the program. Now I want to look at the things that are exciting to me, and that is our key transition activities within the Florida Department of Correction. So Florida statutes, sections 944.701 through 944.708, mandated the creation, implementation, and required content for a transition program within the department. That program right now is known as Compass 100, and it is 100 mandated hours of employability skills training for all inmates prior to their release. It is required that they complete what is called a readiness portfolio during this class, and it contains items such as a professional resume, a cover letter, career and education plans, a personal budget, a criminal history explanation letter, just to name a few. So I do know that I read a statistic, again, I'm a statistic girl, that said that 75% of employers in today's job market are more concerned with employees having the soft skills necessary to be a good employee than they are in them having the hard skills that they need to complete the job. So an employer would much more likely to train someone that has no hard skills on how to do a job, but it's very hard to train for soft skills. It's hard to train for things like dependability, promptness. It's hard to train for, a person that's willing to take the initiative and complete projects. It's hard to train someone how to work in a team, teamwork. And these are some of the soft skills and some of the issues that we address during our Compass 100 program. So really taking advantage of our population and the training that we're giving them as far as that is a big incentive to employers when they're considering whether to hire our returning citizens. The Florida Department of Corrections also conducts our pre-release hiring events at our institutions. These events are an opportunity for our partner second chance employers to engage inmates pre-release, interview them pre-release, and make job offers with start dates pre-release. It is a higher level of employer commitment and engagement. If you look on the screen, you can actually see a hiring event, a virtual hiring event that's going on. We can have both virtual and in-person hiring events, just depending on how close you are to the institution where the returning citizen is that you're going to be interviewing. So if you're in Miami-Dade and somebody is releasing from Dade CI, you may want to go to the institution to interview that person in person. But if you're an employer from, if somebody's releasing from Miami to Duval, an employer in Duval cannot obviously go to Miami to interview them. And so we can set that up virtually. It was one of the silver linings of the pandemic, is that we were able to start utilizing these virtual technologies to ensure that every person releasing from our institutions has the capability to be put in front of an employer in the community that they're returning back to. Another one of our key transition services in the department is our multidisciplinary transition teams. Our Secretary Inch, who was the Secretary of the Florida Department of Corrections previously, used to have a quote about reentry being everyone's responsibility. It is not one staff member's responsibility to ensure that our returning citizens have a successful transition back to society. It can't just be one release officer or one career development specialist. It has to be a collaboration between all staff members within the institution that have had a hand in helping, get this person to the end of their sentence. So when we talk about a multidisciplinary transition team, it can include many staff members. Institutionally, it can include our assistant wardens, our classification officers, release officers, career development specialists, medical, mental health, ADA coordinators for those individuals that might have a disability. Our community transition team are often involved in the multidisciplinary transition teams. If somebody is releasing under supervision to probation or parole, we can include their probation and parole officer, as well as the employment specialist for that probation and parole office as well. But without a doubt, the most valuable member of our multidisciplinary transition teams within our institutions are our reentry service providers, our employers, our community-based partners, because you are kind of where the rubber meets the road. If we cannot get in gainful employment for an individual, then what good does it do to get them housing that they won't be able to afford to pay for? So it is really important as we move forward in our partnerships that we be able to include our employers and our reentry service providers and our community partners in our conversations, in our planning for the release of these individuals. And the way that we do that is through our multidisciplinary transition teams. Another bit of information about, I think, a really exciting piece of our transition services in the department is Florida Hires. So Florida Hires currently provides vocational and employability skills training in select institutions. It is a partnership between CareerSource Florida, and that is the governor's workforce arm, and the Florida Department of Corrections. They currently have $1 million in general revenue funding for this partnership, and plans are underway to merge Florida Hires with our Compass 100 transition program within the institution, with kind of the vision that our Compass 100 programs within the institutions can function as many workforce development, like career centers, the way that CareerSource does for the community. So As we've gone through this presentation, we've talked about some of the barriers and everything that our returning citizens do face. So I just want to see if we were paying attention and just ask you to put in the chat box or answer for me what 3 barriers are that a returning citizen may face when entering society. Maybe the 3 that you think would be the most difficult to overcome. Substance abuse, I see that, Mr. Upchurch. It's a big one, and we've already mentioned it here. So yeah. Yes, stigma, absolutely. The stigma is the biggest one, and that's where the mind shift, not just within our organizations, but in our entire communities, has to come from. Employment. I see employment a lot, and employment is huge. As we said, employment is foundational because everything else, whether they can have housing, whether they can afford to get a car, everything else hinges on employment. And that is, why it is absolutely foundational. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to come back to this quote. People who have paid their debt to society, who want to work, and who are qualified for the job should not be resentenced to joblessness. So when I think about this quote, I'm oftentimes thinking of ways to get involved that maybe I had never considered before. And your organization may have never considered hiring returning citizens. It may never have even been a blip on the radar until this particular presentation. And I hope that maybe it's opened up your mind a little bit to, the fact that there is a recognition in this country right now that we need to do better by our returning citizens. The support that we offer them upon their release as communities can make or break the rest of their life, literally. This quote was actually said by Johnny C. Taylor Jr. He is the national president and CEO of the Society for Human Resource Management. That's your national SHRM president. And we at the Department of Corrections certainly appreciate the willingness of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association in partnering with the department to get our returning citizens and offenders back to work, because we do understand that we cannot do this alone. We do understand, as they say, that it takes a village. And with that, I am going to open up the floor to your questions. I have myself, we have Ms. Dixon Williams, Ms. Warren from Region 1 that are here and available to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
This is Lynn Hernandez. I'm in the Miami-Dade, Florida Keys area. I work for a Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, and we do work with Career Source. And actually with Miami-Dade College, we did help support a program that was providing some training. Unfortunately, the funding, I think from the state is no longer being continued. So in Miami-Dade and the Keys, are there other resources that we could work with to be able to source some of the returning citizens?
100%. So that would be the role of your community transition specialist in that particular region. Her name is Miss Natalie Dixon Williams. We will be able to get everybody our contact information. And I am quite positive that she would love to reach out to you. Again, we utilize a releasing report in the process. So we know who is exiting the institution. We know who is exiting the institution back to your area. We are able to see who may have, culinary arts certifications, other certifications that you might be interested in or might need. And we are able to arrange those hiring events, those pre-release interviews with the candidates that you would be interested in seeing.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
My voice is going so bad. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's why I didn't speak, Ms. Hernandez. I will definitely provide you with my contact information. I just wanted to let you know, in reference to the Keys, we do not have an institution in the Keys area, but we do have returning citizens returning back to that area. So I just wanted to make that very clear. We did have an institution down there in the Keys, but we do not anymore. We do have probation offices throughout the Keys. So there's an employment specialist that is located inside those probation offices in the Keys. So in reference to assisting you with that, we do have several returning citizens going back to Miami-Dade and the Keys. So I would definitely love to have a conversation with you so we can sit down. And just like Aaron explained with the multidisciplinary team, I would like you to be a part of that so we can further have discussions in reference to how to start doing those virtual interviews. So please contact me so we can have a further conversation.
Thank you. And I also put my contact information in the chat for you.
All right, thank you. I apologize again for my voice, sorry.
I see Mr. Ferris that wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to pose a question. As I'm an observer, I am a consultant to the DOC for correctional programs. And I wanted to, I didn't hear any discussion in depth at all about the various positions they're hiring for, but I tend to think that they're looking at the hospitality side, culinary arts, housekeeping, and so forth. I want to call attention to everyone in the group of the many programs that Robert Melgard's group with the CTE vocational training programs have for building maintenance, HVAC, plumbing, carpentry, electrical that may be needed in some of the larger organizations.
Oh, without a doubt, we offer, I think currently there's over 92 career and technical education training opportunities within the Department of Corrections. And that goes far beyond, just like I said, a serve safe or culinary arts. I mean, maintenance, mechanics, I like so many, I'm completely drawing a blank, but it is not just limited only to those that, you know, to housekeeping or to, you know, front desk or whatever your needs are. We probably have a career and technical education program that we are training people in those particular services in currently. We really try to utilize the labor market information as we are instituting training within our programs. So what are the needs in your area? You know, what are our growing needs in your area so that we are training towards those growth areas. So don't think that when we are reviewing, releasing reports or talking about putting somebody in front of you that it just has to be only about, you know, like I said, housekeeping or working in a restaurant or at a hotel. It can be any, you know, whatever your needs are. We probably have many people within our institutions that are releasing that can fulfill those needs.
Thank you, Erin. And I did want to add for everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and I'll share that with everyone that registered and is on the Zoom today. And I'll share, you know, Erin's contact information, and Erin, I'll provide you too with our regional director's contact information, so we can, you know, make that connection there as well. But I really appreciate your time today, and I think this is great information that a lot of our members can benefit from.
Hey, Ashley, this is Dan Murphy. I have a quick question for Erin. Do you guys have any video testimonial of some of the returning citizens and maybe even some of the businesses or hotels or restaurants that have hired these, some success stories? Sometimes a short video showing the success of these things that go a long way.
I will have to reach out to some of our employers, because typically I do know of plenty of success stories with our employers. particularly, I don't know whether it's in the hospitality industry, but I do know that in some of our trade industries, as far as like masonry and things like that, some of our returning citizens have actually spoken at their trade industry conferences and, about the benefit of this program. And so we can definitely work on seeing if we can get a copy of some of those speeches. There's one particularly where we placed someone with the Florida Masonry Apprenticeship and Education Foundation. He went into their apprenticeship program and then was asked to go and speak at one of their conferences. And I do believe that there is video of that. So we can definitely reach out and get you some more information in that regard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I think that's all the questions that we had for today. Again, I'll make sure we share everyone's contact information later this afternoon. And again, I really appreciate your time today, Erin, Natalie, and everyone for joining us.
Can I ask a really quick question? I'm sorry, just before we end, we do have our CTE coordinator, Mr. Robert Melgard, on the line with us. And I just wanted to see if maybe he had anything that he wanted to say about the CTE programs that we have. He may have already jumped off.
Erin,
though.
he had to jump off onto another
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, that is my bad. So I appreciate it, Ashley. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.